Hello everyone, Gammon here. So I'm trying to get into the Fire Emblem series because, well, as a giant fan of Valkyria Chronicles and Suikoden, I just can't get enough of anime war. So based on a very helpful Reddit post, I decided to give Path of Radiance a shot as my first Fire Emblem game. And after finishing the game, I realized there were some things the game just doesn't explain very well, and I wish I knew before starting my first playthrough. For anyone worried, this video will be completely spoiler-free and only talk about gameplay elements. I also don't claim to be an expert on the game, but this video is intended for new players like myself who are trying to get into Fire Emblem and want to have the best experience in their first playthrough, so hopefully my dumbass incredibly basic observations will be helpful to you as someone who also has zero information. So first, when you level up, the stats you'll gain are random. While this can be changed on your second playthrough, on the first you can end up having a level up give you a point in every single attribute, or absolutely no points. Another thing you should know is that after each mission you get bonus experience. This bonus experience can be used in your base to level up your characters in an environment where saving is possible. And while I don't recommend save scumming in an attempt to max out your characters in your base, well, unless you're the type of person who's really into that, upgrading characters using bonus experience does at the very least let you avoid the absolutely heartbreaking 0 stat point level up. Another thing you should be aware of is the class system. All characters start at a specific level. Once they hit level 21, their class will be upgraded into an elite version of their previous class. However, there are exceptions to this. Specifically, the Beastmen known as Legoos do not upgrade and have a max level of 20 instead of the 40 most characters have. And some characters start out as elite classes. Early game you'll receive 2 Beastmen characters and 2 elite characters, Shinon and Titania. Try to use your elite and Legoos characters as little as possible in the early game. Despite looking like they're at level 1, they're actually about 20 levels higher than, well, everyone else in the game at this point. This means they can easily destroy early game enemies, but these enemies also give them almost no experience. It's much better to let your other heroes kill these early game enemies as they gain significantly more experience from them. And I'm talking like 40 times more experience. Oh, and this is how you remove the animation from combat. Well, I'm sure these animations were really impressive when the game came out. Currently, they're just slowing the game down to a crawl. The game took me about 26 hours to finish, and you can miss recruitable characters, very important items, as well as conversations. You can miss out on a lot if you don't know what you're doing, and as someone who never played Fire Emblem before, I had no idea what I was doing and missed out on quite a bit. It doesn't bother me as I'll probably be doing a second playthrough, but if you're not planning on replaying the game, I highly suggest you use a recruitment guide so that at the very least you'll finish the game with all the characters in your army and get the most out of your first playthrough. I've left a link to a spoiler-free recruitment guide at the description of this video. Early in the game, someone will ask you for 50,000 gold. As a result, I didn't spend any of my money for most of the early to mid-game because I wanted to save up 50,000 gold. When I did, nothing happened. The money that person is asking for will be received via a story event, and you cannot pay him before that point in the story, so spend your money. I didn't know this, and as a result I ended up with a bunch of unspent cash, just coffers of it. Oh, speaking of money, early in the game you'll get the ability to buy custom weapons, but you can only forge one custom item per chapter, so make sure to use your money to forge at least one custom weapon per chapter and give it to one of your weaker heroes. You're essentially converting your gold into experience for your weaker heroes, allowing them to level up faster. Don't worry about wasting your gold. The best weapons in the game are dropped from NPCs or given through story events. You can't really use gold to advance the story or do anything really useful like buy stat boosting items or any other permanent power increase. Other than getting, more weapons, your gold is fairly useless. So by all means, use it to give your weaker units a leg up, to kill enemies and level up faster. Another thing you should spend your gold on, at least early game, is healing items. Because you want to use your weaker units in the early game as much as possible, because they'll gain the most experience, they're going to get injured. So you're going to want to help them using healing items and staves. The healing items you see will always heal exactly 10 HP, and that becomes less and less useful the longer the game goes. So don't stock up on your healing items, feel free to use them early game as much as possible. Okay, so time to talk about something that took me a while to understand, and by a while I mean I only understood it after having finished the game and read about it on the wiki. The support system. The support system is weird and kinda not good. So first, each character can only have 5 conversations, but having a conversation will lower that count for both characters. So if you picked Ike and had him talk to Titania, both Ike and Titania will lose a charge from their 5 conversations and will have 4 conversations remaining. Also, you need 3 conversations to max out a social link, meaning each hero can have 1 maxed out friendship at most. So it's best to pick one character to max it out to A, and then pick another and just going for B. By the way, being unable to see all the side content and support conversations in one playthrough is kinda horrible. It's even worse considering just how good some of the side content is and how some of it is actually incredibly interesting and relevant to the plot, and you'll be completely blocked out of it. And I know that they do fix it in future games, but as a new player I really don't care. It's pretty horrible and very annoying in this one. Okay, so the second thing you need to know about these conversations is that while supports give you stat upgrades, these upgrades only activate if your 2 characters are within 3 tiles of each other. So you should choose to have support conversations with people that will naturally be close to each other during combat. Having 2 knights, 2 archers, or 2 flying units support each other is great because they have the same amount and type of movement, and will just naturally be easy to keep together and want to go to roughly the same place. However, having a flying unit friendly with an archer is a complete waste, because they'll almost never be within 3 tiles of each other. So don't just use up your support conversations the moment they're available. Check the unit and think about whether these 2 characters will naturally be close to one another on the combat map. Moving on from support conversations, not all units are made equal, because they have very low mobility, health, and defense, and many mid and late game enemies have weapons they can throw at them. Archers and mages are just not the best. This is compounded by not being able to buy high-tier magic books from shops, and horse archers just seemingly being plain better than regular archers. Flying units and horse units with their insane mobility and power are exceptional, and Lagoose units are also incredibly strong. Or at least that's just how it went in my playthrough. If you have a playstyle that really benefits from using these units and you enjoy using them, feel free to tell me to go fuck myself. The last thing I'll talk about is avoiding noob traps. So there are 2 traps for new players, and the first is an item called Master Seal. This item lets you upgrade your units to their elite class after they hit level 10, instead of waiting until they're level 21. This may sound good, but what you're doing is losing all of the stat bonuses they would have gained between their current level and level 21. So by the time they reach max level, they'll be significantly weaker than they would have been if they got those extra stats between level 10 and 20. Not to mention, once they level up to their elite unit, they'll gain less experience for the same enemies. Personally, I used Master Seal on level 20 units to just basically save up on 100 experience, but you can just sell it if you want some extra cash, or I don't know, look at it, it's very pretty. Now, the second noob trap is that you need to know that stats have a maximum, and units can actually reach that maximum through level ups alone. And actually, some units have really high growth rates, so the chance of them hitting their max attribute before they hit level 20 is actually pretty high. You know a unit's attribute is maxed out when it starts glowing green. Because of that, using stat boosting items on units early in the game can end up being a waste, as they may have maxed out their stats even without these items. So save your stat boosting items for later in the game when you actually know that you're going to need them and they won't go to waste. Okay, so hopefully with that you now know everything you need to know to get the most out of your first playthrough of Path of Radiance. And it is a really good game, so by all means, go have a swim with the dolphins and enjoy your first playthrough. Until next time, this has been me.